Hi, this is Bill Hitchcock, and I just wanted to set up this little video clip to show you a few sorting tips in Microsoft Excel. I've got a spreadsheet here, and I'm just going to zoom in on this in a minute. So give me a second as I do that. It's got some data. It's got an order date, the region, the rep, the items, the units, the unit cost, extended cost, tax, and gross cost on this file. So a few things that I would say that we want to do with this. This is set up as a set of records. In other words, we've got these column headers, or if you will, they're called field names, going across the top. And then underneath that, we've got a whole bunch of records all the way down here to row 44 or so. And then at the very bottom, we've got some totals. Right? So it's a pretty common setup for a lot of spreadsheets. But actually, it's got some errors in it, and I'll show you what happens when we start doing some things. So first, before I save before I try sorting anything, I think it's always a good idea to make sure that you save a backup copy. So I'm just going to go File, Save As, put this into my folder where I'm saving this, and I'll just call it V2 or maybe BCK for backup. Just something so we've got an extra copy of it in case we really mess things up and have to start all over again. All right, so wait until that saves. All right, there we go. All right, another thing that you'll notice is when I zoomed in on here, I've got a bunch of hash marks showing up for this first record. All that means is the column isn't wide enough. So if I go right in between column A and B, you'll notice that my cursor changes to a pipe with two arrows on it. And if I click and drag on that with my left click, I can widen that out just as wide as I might need it. Or if I widen it even further, you can see that. Or if you just double click between the A and the B, it will make it auto width or widen that out just as wide as the widest thing is in the column. So added tip here. All right. So now what I want to do is I want to be able to sort this. So remember, we've got Central, Andrews, Binder, and so on. What if we happen to sort by the region? So I want to get all my Centrals together, then have all the East together, all the West, and so on. So if I come up to sort, there's actually two places you can do it. On the Home tab, if you look all the way over towards the end here in the Editing group, you'll see Sort and Filter. So that's one way. Or if you go to your Data tab, right in the Sort and Filter group, you can see there's Sort and Filter. Now these two sorts are kind of quick sorts. It takes whatever field you happen to be in, so in this case, region, and it'll sort by that column. If you want something where, say for instance, I've got a whole bunch of centrals here, within central I want to sort by something else, then I would choose sort and do it that way. Well, I'm just going to try this first with the quick sort, all right? So I'm just going to click A to Z, hit OK, and when I do that, I now have all my centrals together. Then there's all the East, and finally the West. But problem is, you might have noticed, or maybe you didn't. Let's undo this for a second. Notice up at the top, we've got Central, Andrews, Binder. The cost is $4.99 and so on. But you'll notice that there's a blank column here, right? That blank column is going to mess up our sorting. So if we try this again, let's sort this. And now the first few records will be fine. But if you hit sort there, notice none of these unit costs seem to change. That's because they're tied to whatever region I happen to be in. Or I should say, this blank column causes them to be ignored when we're doing the sort. So I'm going to undo that again. And instead, what we're going to do is I'm going to click on this blank column. I'll right click on it, hit delete. I see there's another blank column here. I want to right click on that, hit delete. I want to right click on this one, hit delete. And finally, there's one more, it looks like, and we'll hit delete. So the lesson is, don't ever leave blank columns in between your fields. And same thing goes for rows. You don't want to have any blank, like for instance, if I would click here and choose insert, you don't want to have any blank rows in here because again, it's not going to know what to do with those things. It won't sort things properly. So don't include blank rows. So now that I've got that, I'm going to try to sort by region. And as I do that, now my unit costs kind of stay with the right records, and that works a little bit better. All right, let's undo this. Go back to kind of the original sort. Now what I'm going to try doing is I'll try sorting by item. So I'll sort this. So here's all my binders together. And as I scroll down, pencils, and we've got that. Let's scroll up to the top. Let's undo that sort. And this time, let's try to sort in descending order by item. And notice when I do that, suddenly my totals are showing up at the top. And you can see my totals aren't working correctly. All right, so that's kind of a disaster. We don't want that to happen. The reason why is when we had this original data set, the totals were put immediately underneath the last record. And when it does that, it assumes, hey, it's another record. So what I need to do is go down to the bottom here. We want to insert right above totals a blank row. And that way it separates this from all the rest of my data set. All right, I'm going to hit Control Home to get up to the top. And now if we try sorting by item in descending order, I don't include the totals because the totals are down here. It's kept separately, right? So that's kind of lesson number 2. Make sure that you always have a blank row underneath that last record. All right, I'm going to undo that. Finally, what I also want to be able to do is I want to be able to keep track of the original order that I had these records in. Now, sometimes that's fine because they might have been sorted by date or something else, but it's not always it's not always apparent to what order they had these records in. So in order to do that, right-click on your leftmost field, insert a new row, and then come up with a field name like either SEQ for sequence, or NUM for number, or rec and a hash mark for record number. Something that identifies which record is which. All right, so we'll leave rec num in there. I'm going to type in 1, hit enter, 2, hit enter, 3, hit enter. I'll highlight those cells. I like to go to home and use a comma style format for this and get rid of the 2 decimal places. That way, if I have thousands of records, I'll have 1 comma and the numbers for anything over 999. So I've got that formatted the way I want it. I've got my first 3 records sequenced and highlighted. And then I come down here to this little black box in the lower right-hand corner. It's called the fill handle. When I mouse over that, my cursor becomes a thin plus sign. And if I double click, it will copy this sequence all the way down until it hits the last record, assuming I don't have any blanks in the order date. So we'll double click here. And as I scroll down, there's all my records. So there's 43 of them. If I want, I could use a count function down here just to verify what records I have. So what I'm doing is I'm typing in equals count parenthesis, cursor up 1 cell. I want to include this blank line because the count will ignore blanks. Hold my shift key, cursor up once, hit my end key, END, up arrow, and it goes all the way up to the top. So I've got A1 through A45. Hit enter. It tells me I've got 43 records. If I want to use that format that I had before, I'll click on the cell above, choose Format Painter on the Home tab, format that number. So we know we've got 43 records there as well. Let's hit Control Home. I'm going to go underneath my field names, click on View, Freeze Panes, and Freeze Panes. So now as I hit end and down, I can still read what column is what. Hit Control Home. I can narrow up this column a little bit so it just displays that out. That's looking pretty good. And now let's try sorting a few different ways. Let's sort by order date. Come over to the column, choose either data or home. This time we'll try home. Choose sort and filter. I want to sort from oldest to newest. And we find our first record happened to be January 2016. And it looks as though these records were actually sorted in descending order by date. All right, let's hit Control Home. Let's try sorting by region. So I choose this. So now here I've got all my central records together, all my east and west. Now, since we have duplicate values, central like this, I probably want to sort by something else within that. So let's go back to sort and filter, choose a custom sort, and it's got in there the field name. It's going to sort by region. I'll add a level, and then let's sort by the representative name. Hit OK. And that way in the central region, here's all of Andrew's records, all of Gil's, and so on. So that's where we're using at least two different fields. Same thing again in here. We've got duplicates, all right? Central and Andrews are all the same. So we probably want to add a third field to sort by. So let's go to, I'll choose data this time, sort, region and rep. And then you can decide, I don't know, do you want to sort by item next? Do you want to sort by the sequence? It's kind of up to you what we're going to sort by. So that way we've got the binders, but notice that there's 3 pencils. Then we could maybe sort by the order date as well. Anytime that you have kind of repeating data, you might want to add an extra sort key to sort your records. So, looks like that works out pretty well. We've got a few things about sorting. We've got the information about no blank columns, no blank rows, and making sure that we insert a blank row before we do any totals, and that should take care of it. So good luck with doing some of the sorting, and don't make any of those common mistakes.